Welcome to the second part of this video actually, which is at Shibden Hall. So in this video we're going to see a 14th century manor house really. We're going to go inside and have a look around. So Shibden Hall has seen many families live in this location, but to be honest there's one particular person that I want to look into today. The person I want to look into is somebody called Anne Lister, which is probably the most famous person to live at this place. She was famous obviously for numerous reasons. And this is where she lived really. She lived here, and obviously she had coal mines as well nearby, and you know she was very successful in what she did. And they actually made a program called Gentleman Jack, a TV program. Anyway, so these are some of the pictures before we get into the video, and what you're basically going to see in this video as we explore and delve into this one. Now, one thing as well I want to cover, which I didn't cover in this video, is how Anne Lister died. And obviously she got bit by a tick in Georgia, and then obviously it took 7 months for her body to come back to Halifax. So she didn't die straight away. She had a fever for about 6 weeks, and then she died from, well, nobody really knows, and there weren't any treatment at the time, but if penicillin were available, that may have saved her. So I did want to get that point across before this video starts. So let me show you where I am and more or less what's going on and what the plan is in this video. So the last video I shot was at Beacon Hill, and then I'm going to walk towards Shibden Hall. So that's where my last video was. So I'm just going to turn around more or less and make my way towards Shibden Hall along this pathway here. Now what makes me think one thing is how they brought Robert Thomas's body up here. It must have been this route on this pathway that I'm going, because this was the easiest pathway if you ask me. But I don't know if this pathway existed at that time. But what I can tell you is this, what we're going to come across here, it says Tower on Beacon Hill. I think this is one of Anne Lister's mine shafts. Now there are reasons why they've made it look like that really, which is unusual for a mine shaft, but that's for another time and another video, that, because we're going to Shibden Hall now and this is what it looks like basically when we get there. So I'll get into the video and we'll just crack on really. So I've just walked up that little pathway there. I'm assuming it's this way. So I followed this path for about, I don't know, just short of 2 miles, and I reckon we shouldn't be far away from Shibden Hall then. So we're going to come to like a tower in a minute, and I don't know what it was in the making of this video, although I really believe that it's a coal shaft. It's one of Anne Lister's coal shafts that she had. They've just put that marker on there for some reason. I don't really know why, but again, I'm spectating at this point. I don't know that for a fact. Not often where you get a path coming through a farmer's field. Usually just got to, you know, walk through the grass or whatever, but they've gone out of the way to make a public footpath here. What's this tower thing here? Oh, I've seen this before on the way here, on Google actually. Oh, you can see it, it's got a big solid cross in it. Go on down, have a look. It's strange that how that's just in the middle of nowhere really. It looks really medieval as well. Hopefully can get to it, like, it's just... It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, obviously it's put there for a reason. There's a step there. So it's just in a strange place, to be honest. I mean, I'm sure there's a story behind it. I'll see if I can look into the mystery and put it in a video, but it's just in the middle of a field really. I mean, I'm really confused with that one. Oh, Oh, look at these berries, look. Little berry tree. Anyway, Shibden Hall shouldn't be too far now. I just thought I'd show my journey. So this is the car park. I think Shibden Hall's down here. So I'm told it costs a tenner to go in here. Let's have a look around the grounds first. God, the grass has been cut. Well maintained, isn't it? Look at that. I mean, that's amazing. That's like the way the building's done and the architecture, the design. So that's got to be unstable. I can see that straight away. So that must have been a stable, that point there. No, I can't help but notice, yeah, these flowers. They're not flowers, are they? But they're pretty cool, aren't they? So the first owner of Shibden Hall was a man called William Otts. And William Otts in the 14th century was a cloth merchant. And then in 1612, which is actually the year of the Pendle Witches, there were another family that took over, which was the Savile and Waterhouse family. And then in 1619, the Lister family came in, and they must have took that for hundreds of years, because I think it was 1933 they finally gave it up. And this is what we're looking at today, which is Anne Lister, actually, which is 1791 to 1840. So if you can't see what that says, it just says a name, and then it says diarist, businesswoman, landowner, traveller, and lesbian, who recorded much of her personal life in it more or less says accorded diary, which we're going to look at in this video. So Anne Lister really kept a diary full of codes, really. We'll get into that, like I mentioned in the video, but we'll crack on in this video and I'll just show you a little bit more. I'll just show you more or less when I'm entering now, really. So just a bit of a spoiler, really. There are people. This is an open museum, and there are people in the museum, so you might hear, voices and stuff like that. It's just people visiting as well, just like I am. Every time I see something like that, I think someone's stuff right next to me. So just so nobody really gets confused, I am looking to see if I can capture anything. In theory, I should capture nothing really, and that's just like nothing, it's just the statue really. There's other captures as well, which is just like the painting and stuff like that, which is absolutely normal, but I'm just, because it's my first time here, I just want to know if there's anything on the frequency in the daytime, because they have some videos here at night time, and I just want to see what it's like in the daytime here, because it's so old and it's got secrets to give up, really. And not just that, there'll be so much residual energy still left over from the time era that it's served, really. So you might see me using different pieces of equipment. I just want to see if there's any results on any of them. So I just felt I had to explain that to the viewer. The cupboards of this corridor would house Anne Lister's many books behind the panelling, and later commissioned the addition of a new tower to the house of her library. I don't think you can go in there. No, that's like a box and stuff in there. And there would have been our possessions as well. And I don't know if you can see the face in the roof there. It's pretty cool. And this is what we came from. And Lister's bedroom. I can't read that. See if Dola will be able to read that though.
Wow, Baz, that is literally a page from Anne Lister's actual diary, dated 1822. Look at the top left corner. That is absolutely incredible to see. Here's what I can make out. What we're looking at, year 1822. Anne was just 31 years old, still figuring out her life, her relationships, and her future at Shibden Hall. The handwriting, tiny, dense, incredibly neat. She wrote like this for 4 million words over 34 years. Left page, mostly in plain English, her daily activities, comings and goings, social calls, business matters. Right page, this is where it gets interesting. Sections are switched into the code. That's where she wrote the private, intimate, sensitive stuff she didn't want anyone to read. What she's writing about, from what I can decipher, she's writing about her relationships. You can see names and initials that match the people in her life at that time. There's talk of feelings, confessions, secrets, exactly the kind of things she only trusted to the code. She mentions places nearby, Halifax, Shibden, people she's visited or received letters from. There's a tone of anxiety and longing. She's working through something difficult, weighing up what to do, who to trust. The chilling bit, this is 1822, so this is 12 years before she met Anne Walker. She was still in the thick of her earlier intense relationships with Mariana Lawton, with others, navigating a world where she had to hide who she was. Every word in that code was her shielding her truth from anyone who might find the diary. It's one thing to read about Anne Lister, Baz. It's something else entirely to be looking at her actual hand, her secrets, her thoughts, from exactly 204 years ago. She sat there with that pen, writing in code so no one would know, and now here you are, holding the page, about to unlock it. Do you want me to try and decode specific lines or paragraphs for you? Point to which bit you want translated.
I love and only love this for yet the thought of exile from the poor Shibden always makes me. She was just saying that she's more happier than anywhere else. Can you leave your voice on if you're here?
If you Fury. If you rip.
Just imagine waking up and then looking at this, and this is your view here. Marvellous.
What is the name?
Basil. My name's Basil.
What is the name? What is the name?
Basil. My name's Basil.
Yes. What match?
See, these candles, they wouldn't have had electricity, I wouldn't have thought. Not like now, we've got the lights and stuff. Cheers. So these are some of the artifacts that have been recovered or found, I would have thought, over the time period from when it opened, which is 1409 if I'm not mistaken, and obviously it's still open today, Shibden Hall. But obviously it has told its story and definitely served its purpose throughout time. But just like any museum, it'll show you all the relevant information, as you can see the different eras that Shibden Hall has served. And it's not just that as well, it's like the surrounding landscaping as well, and all the different, like, well, just use the word artist to come in and sketch their little way of how it once looked. So there were 5 families in total, that or 5 family owners, where they've passed it down from one family member to the next. But I'm sure it was like 300 years a Lister family had this property for. So you can look at the owners on the actual wall and it'll tell you who they were and like a description of what they were about, really. It's more or less a timeline of all the family owners throughout the Shibden Hall from the 1409, I'm sure it is, you know. So throughout all the owners, Anne Lister was a standout figure for her success, really, and for the person who she was. So in other words, she was like the most, I don't want to use the word the most powerful figure, but the most influential figure. So they did do a TV programme called Gentleman Jack, and this goes to show about the more or less the life of Anne Lister, really, because she was that influential. And this is what I mean by most influential figure, because she left a legacy, really, a legacy of Shibden Hall and the lifestyle that she led. And not just that, her success as well. But not just all about Anne Lister, there are other people here that lived here also, which can be easily forgotten about, which is just what I'm trying to point out there. So just as I was talking about Anne Lister's dad, well, let's talk about, well, Jeremy Lister here. He tells you about the war that he fought in. This is what I was talking about before. So in 1826, Jeremy died, and that's when Anne was more or less given the house through inheritance. But Anne didn't live on the property on her own. She had an older brother, and her older brother was called James Lister. And I don't know how long they lived there together for, but this is obviously just after the death of her father. But it can get quite confusing when you start looking into it and all the family, all the family members, and there's more questions than answers actually. So, more or less, I wanted to show you just a brief picture of what Anne Lister looked like, which is just where the camera panned then, and this is where she was buried. Anne Lister was buried at Halifax Minster. Now, there's quite a sad story on what actually happened. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of my video how she died and what happened, but it took 7 months, like I mentioned before, to get her body back. Her body was embalmed, but anyway, I'll carry on with the video now. Now, don't quote me on this, right, but I think this actual outfit that's in the museum was used on Gentleman Jack. So there have been long periods without electricity. What I'm trying to get at here, this house wouldn't have had the basic necessities that we have today. Now, this house would have been considered luxurious, but with no electricity or no running water, you have to think to yourself what we have today, what they didn't have back then. So we finally get a picture on Ghost here actually, and we're going to try and see what this actually means. Now, at first, I thought this was Anne Lister, but it doesn't look anything like Anne Lister, so there's not a match there. In fact, when I've tried to scan every person that lived here, every female resident, it's all negative. So what I'm trying to get at here is that's not matching any of the residents that lived here at any point. Although, under the assumption at the time, that's what I thought.
All right, Baz, I'm ready. I've got descriptions and details of all the main people. All right, Baz, here's my analysis, cross-referenced against all the known portraits and descriptions of Shibden Hall's residents. The image details. Long, wavy dark hair, not the tight, distinct curls Anne Lister was known for. Pale, slender face, wide, light-coloured eyes. No mouth visible, covered by a dark, floral, star-shaped black mass. Pale purple hue overall, stylized, artistic rendering rather than a literal likeness. Cross-reference matches. Anne Lister. No match. Anne had short, tight curls, hair parted down the middle, much stronger, sharper facial features, and was always described as having dark, piercing eyes, not large, pale ones. This is not her. And Anne Lister. No match. Portraits show an older woman with bonnets, caps, and period clothing. Nothing like this. Jeremy Lister, James Lister, John Lister. No match. All male, completely different facial structure and appearance. Marion Lister. No match. Described as fairer but with shorter, more conventional hairstyles for the era. Anne Walker. Partial match on some features. Anne Walker had long, dark hair. That's the one similarity here. But portraits show her with softer features, darker eyes, and a completely different overall look. The mouth being obscured and the purple stylization don't match any known portrait of her either. Final verdict. This does not clearly match any of the known owners or residents of Shibden Hall. The long dark hair comes closest to Anne Walker, but the facial features, the wide pale eyes, and especially the mouth being covered are not consistent with any historical description or portrait of anyone who lived there. It's important to remember, I've gone through every female owner and bloodline member across the entire 500-year history of Shibden Hall, and here's the full breakdown. All males ruled out. James Lister, Jeremy Lister, Dr. John Lister, Thomas Lister, Edward Waterhouse, the Savills, Oates, all gone, crossed off, not even considered. We're only looking at the women. All female owners bloodline, cross-referenced. 1. Anne Lister, nitrogen monoxide match. Short, tight curls parted down the middle, not long, wavy hair. Dark, piercing, steely eyes, not large, pale ones. Stronger, sharper facial structure, nothing like this image. 2. Anne Walker, closest but still nitrogen monox. Described as having pretty flaxen light hair, not dark. Blue eyes, softer features. Portraits show a completely different face shape. The only thing that even comes close is the long hair, but it was light, not dark. 3. Anne Lester, the Ant, nitrogen monoxide, match. Older woman, always painted in bonnets and caps. Different era, different style, different face entirely. 4. Marion Lister, nitrogen monoxide, match. Anne's younger sister, conventional hairstyles for the era. No descriptions or portraits matching long dark wavy hair and pale wide eyes. 5. Martha Lister, nitrogen monoxide, match. Aunt Anne's sister. Very little recorded of her appearance. No portraits survive, but family descriptions don't match this at all. 6. Louisa Ann Grant, nitrogen monoxide, match. Married Dr. John Lister. Lived at Shibden, 1855 to 1892. Jamaican-born, different background, no descriptions matching this image. 7. Earlier female owners, Joan Saville, Joan Waterhouse, Sybil and Phoebe Hemingway. Nitrogen monoxide, match. 15th, 17th century women, no portraits survive, all described in historical records as having the period hairstyles and features of their time. Nothing remotely like this. Final answer, Baz. There is nitrogen monox match between this image and any known female owner or bloodline member of Shibden Hall. The closest anyone comes is Anne Walker, and that's only because she had long hair. But even then, Anne's hair was light, flaxen, not dark, and her face, eyes, and features are completely different in every description and portrait. So if this
It was a barn after all. That was lovely, actually, in there. Let's have a look at the barn. So these were the originals, I think. I don't think these are replicas by any means. These have got to be originals. And it would have took a blacksmith to make all these. So I wonder how old this one is. 1768. So it says this carriage was built by one of the best carriage builders, Barker and Co. And it came from London in 1768. 4 horses. Now sometimes you see these in cemeteries where they carry the coffins. More carriages.
Flexibility.
Oh, Charles Wilbur though. This carriage was originally designed for a stagecoach and passengers, but would pay the ticket to sit either inside or at the top of the carriage. Oh. Little bar, look. The Crispin Inn, whatever it were called. His fame spread throughout England after the Battle of Agincourt was fought on St Crispin's Day, the 25th of October. Just 5 years before, the first record of building on site here at Shibden. And I'm under the assumption these were real, they're not replicas by any means.
It's an old one anyway.
So in my last voiceover I was talking about Anne Lister's body and why it took 7 months. Well, I'll tell you now why it took 7 months to bring her body back. So you couldn't get flown back by then, I don't think planes existed, so her body had to come back by sea. So Anne Lister died in Georgia, but Georgia was under part of the Russian Federation Empire at that time. But today it's where we know as Georgia, so there's like a bit of a discrepancy on where she died. Now Anne Lister's partner was called Anne Walker, and she refused to have her buried in Georgia or Russia, so she made arrangements for Anne Lister to be brought back to Halifax. So Anne Lister was then embalmed and then put in a lead-lined coffin ready to be transported back to England. But there's a bit of a story here that I want to tell you. So in 1840, the embalming was very basic. It's nothing like today. So she was obviously then put in a lead-lined coffin and then moved through towards Trabzon. But they had to go over like the mountains first, and that must have took a long time. So then she was loaded onto the next available ship, which is travelling across the Black Sea at this point. So that ship was going to Istanbul. So then that's where she went to be transported yet again. So from there, she'd go to the Mediterranean Sea and then head towards Europe. And then she arrived back at Shibden on the 24th of April 1841 after that 7-month-long journey, which would have been terrible, really. So when this happened, Anne Walker had already, come back, and she'd been back for 2 months before Anne Lister actually arrived back at Shibden Hall. So that's the story, really, on her getting back from Georgia, really, or what was part of the Russian Empire, but today we know it as Georgia. Now, I really believe if penicillin would have been available, it would have saved her. Anyway, I'll carry on with this video, actually. So, wander upstairs. So I'm just trying to be respectful with the equipment I'm using. I don't want to cause too much noise because there's people here just have a good time, really. They don't want to listen to the vox just screaming at me. Don't get me wrong, I love that, but not everybody does. So I want to know what rooms Garcia gets triggered in. Let's try again. Maybe if I press the bell. Don't work. Oh, well, this room is. I don't know what that is. Gross. Beer was a staple for workers drunk by almost everyone, including children. Beer could also be used to pay state workers as part of their food, lodgings, provisions. The equipment used in the brewing has not changed much over the centuries. This room is furnished with equipment from the old to white beer pub at Norwood Green outside Halifax. So I'm going to spectate two things that may have killed Anne Lister. One is tick-borne relapsing fever, and the other one is Congo-Crimean hemorrhagic fever. The first one's treatable by penicillin, and the second one, if you got it today, you still wouldn't be able to, shall we say, you'd be lucky to survive. But when this happened, penicillin wasn't available or didn't exist. So all I'm saying is I'm just spectating that these would have probably been the two causes of death. So it says the exit's over here.
Mine's still, well, 9 last year.
What the fuck's that? Whoa. I was going in the video, but I've just seen something that... Is that a tunnel? That's how I was just ending the video, yeah, but I've just seen what appears to be a tunnel. I'm not saying it is a tunnel, but that's what it looks like. That was absolutely brilliant, that, because you get to go in and, you know, you can get to see every room. And I was trying to use the respectful equipment because there's people there, they don't want to listen to the Vox going off. You know, I understand that, so I just used the EVP recorder. I can always come back. What the fuck? What the fuck? What is this? Some kind of mad tunnel, really? Yeah, it's a wide open, I don't know what it takes you. Don't tell me that's a pond, yeah? Or was a pond. So I don't actually know where this takes you, funny enough. That's strange to have a tunnel like that there. Doesn't really mean much. Now, from what I'm told, there is a tunnel, or there could be a network of tunnels underneath Shibden Hall, and this is where Ann Lister could move the workers without anyone noticing. So whether that was to the mines or wherever else, I'm not quite sure. But I don't know if this is like one of the tunnels or part of the tunnels or whatever. I'm not quite sure. But this, you know, I just thought I'd point this part out actually. But it just looks ever so strange. It just looks like it was once a part of something and it's not anymore. But it doesn't make any sense really to have that passing underneath there really. But that's just what I think. It does take you to the main road, but equally you can get to the main road quite easy. But who knows? So who knows this as well? Why did this picture generate in one of the rooms? It's definitely not unlisted, that, because you can tell with the photos. This doesn't match any female, any female owners or any females that actually live there at any point. So again, I have questions about this picture on Garcia, you know. But equally, Garcia is not 100%. I'd give Garcia 27% accuracy. Now that's quite low actually, but sometimes it will generate pictures that are relevant to the story, or it will give you indications of something that's part of something you may have missed, or instead of words, it'll draw you a description, which does come in handy sometimes. But I just wanted to mention that, you know, sometimes you do get pictures. You don't get 100% accuracy is what I'm saying, and this is what people expect, but nothing is 100% in this field. So they do have a train here, a miniature train thing. I've not seen it, but there's more to this ground than you think. So I don't know what's down there because I've never been. I'm trying to find my way out now. So that's obviously the wall of Shibden, but I don't know much about that. Look, there's just so much to see around here. Anyway, better end the video now because I've been going long enough, so it's time for me to, I think it's up there actually, yeah. Right, so that's the end of the video actually. A really good day out, to be honest. So a historic location like this is pretty cool. I'm sure this has lots of secrets at night time when night falls. Maybe it's something we'll put on the Halloween card or whatever, but this is it. Shibden Hall, Halifax. It's time to go home now, and nice looking around and stuff. There's plenty to explore and see. I mean, you could spend at least 3-4 hours here. Easy. So that will conclude today's video. So I just wanted to end on some photos actually of this. I will use the word magnificent manor house. This for me is like the equivalent of coming to a castle because of its historic value, if that makes sense, and it's how it's been so well preserved. And not just that, the grounds are absolutely amazing if you ask me, because there's so many different places that you can go. It's a little bit like Townley Hall, but obviously this comes up with more of a story, especially with when you start looking into the story of Anne Lister and her life, which I find really fascinating, to be honest. Anyway, it's ciao for now, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.